Hello, welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. Funny week. I don't know about you, it's been a busy one, but also a quiet one. I don't know, there's not been a lot of news. So before we start, I should remind you it's Microsoft Ignite again next week. I know it feels like we've just about had one already. Last one was back in November, and now we're in nearly March, and Microsoft have split the Ignite season in two this year and have had one in kind of November, and they're going to have a follow-up one in March. So that's never been done before, so we don't really know what kind of level of content to expect. We actually had lots and lots of announcements last year in November, the kind of first version, if you like, of Ignite this time around. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of whether it's a kind of a big announcement type event or whether it's a smaller, sort of slightly more muted type of announcement. We'll just have to wait and see. So this is not one of the things I want to talk about this week, but it's just a reminder really that Ignite is happening next week, next Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, I believe. So you need to make sure you're registered if you want to attend. Attendance is free, attendance is virtual. The session catalogue is out, you can go and look at it now. And you can load up your schedule. It's a bit confusing. I've spoken to a couple of people actually. If you're doing this for the first time, and it can be a little bit confusing to navigate. So what they've done, there are sessions. So if you go and look in the scheduler, you'll see sessions, and you can search free search, or you can filter and categorize to try and find the sessions you're looking for. You will either see an add to schedule button, or sometimes there is not an add to schedule button, but there is always a save to backpack button. Okay, so first thing, you'll see some of the sessions are listed in multiple time zones. So if you want to attend a session in real time, you can pick the time zone that makes the most sense to you. If neither of those time zones make sense to you, that's okay too. You can save it to your backpack. And what happens is all of the things you save to your backpack, you can go and review. Up at the top in the menu, you can choose the drop down and go backpack. A few days after the session, it will show up and you can watch it on demand. You won't be able to watch it on demand forever, but for a couple of weeks after Ignite, it'll still be there on demand. Where it gets a bit confusing is some of the sessions they don't have time in the schedule. But they're still shown in the session catalogue, but only with the save to backpack button. So if you're interested in that session, it's not something you can attend in real time, but save it to your backpack. It's a pre-recorded session. It will pop up as soon as as soon as Ignite starts. Sometimes at some point throughout Ignite, it will pop up and you can then watch it at your leisure. Okay, so that was just a kind of reminder that Ignite is happening next week. Make sure to make time in your calendar if you possibly can to attend some to attend some sessions. It looks kind of interesting. I don't have a great feel this time around for exactly whether it's going to be a really big session, a big Ignite or not. So it'll be interesting. I've heard the rumours about some of the things like virtual reality and mixed reality and all the rest of it. But I think we're just going to have to see. Should be interesting. I am going to try and watch the keynote in mixed reality. I've got a headset, so that could be interesting. I think it's the first, so we shall see. All right. What do I want to talk about this week? Okay, let's talk about a blog post that I did earlier in the week around popping out apps and tabs. I talked about this last week, actually. So if you've heard last week's, you'll know this kind of broke just as I was putting together the update. So I didn't have time to blog about it, but I did kind of cover off what it is. And as I was writing this up, I realised I kind of had mixed feelings about this. Fundamentally, let's just cover through what I've actually blogged about and what the feature is. So for inside Microsoft Teams, a Teams app, you'll be able to right click and pop it out into its own window that you can then resize and move separate from the Teams client. So you can put it on a different monitor, you can resize it, you can full screen it, whatever. You can do that to apps and you can also do it to tabs. And at first kind of glance, this is a good thing. It provides more options for kind of productivity, for layout. It means you can get things exactly how you want them. And I guess that's a good thing. But in a sort of way, I can't help thinking this sort of goes against a little bit of what Teams is supposed to be, which is bringing the data, bringing the applications, the workloads where people are communicating. And what you're doing by popping out is actually taking away from that by saying, actually, this app works better outside of Teams. That's exactly literally what you're doing. So I don't know, I'm a bit conflicted. What might make it really interesting, actually, though, is thinking about what Teams apps do give you, even popped out, is actually a really nice delivery mechanism for applications. A IT admin friendly, a user friendly, a developer friendly packaging mechanism for applications. It just so happens that these are Teams applications, and actually popping them out, what you're saying is they don't really live very well in Teams. They actually live better by themselves. I think it would be really interesting. Don't have any insight about this. This is just me kind of like making stuff up. I think it'd be kind of really interesting to take the Teams app manifest and be able to kind of export it to Windows and say, well, yeah, it's a Teams app manifest, but Windows, just give it desktop space, give it an icon, give it a shortcut on the taskbar, whatever. But read the manifest, you know what to do with it. Just host it as a kind of window, like a web window. And that could be a really interesting way of distributing enterprise apps, because it's not anything on the PC, it's not anything on the machine, it's managed centrally, it's rolled out as part of Teams, which everybody has now anyway. So it's kind of interesting app packaging model, maybe. Anyway, those are just my kind of random thoughts. I wrote them all up in a blog post. You can go read them and disagree with them over there. That's great. Yeah, interesting to hear your thoughts on that. Like, I don't think that's actually necessarily something that is coming. I think it would be pretty weird. Like, it would be amazing if it did. But I think Windows has its own way of packaging things. It probably has some kind of similar concept to this anyway. Perhaps, I'm not totally sure, but I don't spend a lot of time in the kind of desktop Windows packaging and deployment world, so I don't really know. Anyway, just that. Okay, let's talk about some other things. So there is a new blog post on the Microsoft Graph Mailbag blog. So this started, I want to say back in last year, around Christmas time perhaps, just as a series run by the Microsoft Graph team, where they were going to take your questions or questions from sort of that they receive and they get and they see in the community and answer them. And it's kept going on a cadence. This one this week is for anybody who wants a kind of basic introduction into what Microsoft Graph is. So if you're being asked by your fellow colleagues or someone, like, just have you got a link for just what is Microsoft Graph, really high level 101 basic introduction, this is the blog post for you. It is not a technical detailed blog post. It really, so it kind of isn't that, but what it is a nice high level, this is what Graph is, this is what it gives you, this is why it's important, and here are 5 things you can do with it today. So if that sounds interesting to you, go check it out. If you're already using Graph, you don't need this blog post. If you've never heard of Graph, you do need this blog post. That's kind of how it runs. Okay, next up. So I talked about Ignite happening next week, and there's already plenty of rumours around what might be included and what might not be included. The most interesting one, I think, for me, nothing to do with Microsoft Teams, but definitely something to do with the Power Platform. And that's this thing called PowerFx, a possible new language for the Power Platform. It seems to be kind of roughly based on Excel functions, Excel formulae. We don't really know anything about it. It kind of leaked out, I think. Microsoft have no real comment on it. We're going to see if something shows up at Ignite, I guess. It sounds really interesting. I think it's... as a developer, I would not immediately dismiss this. I would think about how Dataverse works and how Dataverse is... if you go and look at Dataverse and go and build something in Dataverse, you're building something with rows and columns. So, maybe if you're doing calculations on the data in those columns, actually maybe it is easier to use something that's slightly formulaic, a bit more Excel-like. If you're coming at this world from Excel and you understand Excel really well, and you're trying to, like, I've seen some huge and complicated Excel spreadsheets, and arguably they should have become applications a while ago, but I get why they're not, because people understand Excel and that's their language and that's their business domain and that's where they can solve their problems. So I wonder if this is some kind of Microsoft recognizing there's a lot of knowledge in Excel data, in Excel spreadsheets. There's a lot of business domain knowledge inside the formulas of those formulae of those Excel spreadsheets. And there's a lot of really smart people who understand how to write those formulae to represent and get what the business needs. So I wonder if this is like a stepping stone to that, to bring those people into the Power Platform and say, hey, you can build Power Apps, you can build Dataverse applications, and you can use your formulae that you've built up over time to present the data, to shape the data in the way that you need. Don't know, we're just going to have to find out. So the link I put in is to a blog post that Mary Jo Foley has done, kind of rounding up all the information we know about PowerFx right now. But that's definitely one to watch next week. The final thing I want to call out is a blog by Jamie Maguire. It's about bot framework, and it's about form dialogues, which I had not previously been aware of in bot framework composer, because have been naughty and not really paying attention to new things in bot framework composer as much as I should. This is a really good blog post. It's a blog post and a video actually, so let me just share my screen real quick so you can see it. So what is this? Okay, so we know what the bot framework composer is. This is new functionality coming to the bot framework composer that's currently in preview. And it's called Form Dialogs, and it's a code generation. It's a way of quickly scaffolding up the process of getting data from your user. So the general idea is you've got some data you need to get from your user, and you can just kind of put it in. There's a screenshot here, but actually I would recommend going and watching the video, because the video lays it out really nicely. You can just put in the properties that you need to go and get. So his example that's in the screenshot here is around coffee. So like one of his properties is coffee type, and that's a list of acceptable values, Americano, mocha, latte, whatever. Number of shots is another property, and that's a number, and then some special request is a string. So you can build up these properties, hit generate, and it will scaffold out everything you need to drop in to have a bot go away and get all those questions from your user, included with all the, like, you can only choose the things from this list, a whole load of natural language processing with Lewis as well. It will generate all the Lewis files for you. It will generate all the stuff you need to go and just get that data, and you can just drop that right in. So that's really nice. Really interesting to kind of see how he positions this, because way more than me, he does this stuff every day for kind of work and stuff. His life, his working life right now is building bots, right? So he's really deep in this. So it's interesting to get his take. It's interesting to me to get his take on where this fits in, right? So it's kind of not a complete rewrite of everything that's gone before. It's dropping in specific use cases where he needs to get a lot of data quickly, or perform some data capture in a sort of specific place, which is kind of makes sense. It's nice. I can see it being really useful for proof of concepts as well, where you know the model of the thing you need to act on, and you need to go and get these 5 pieces of data from a user. This is a really quick way of like just scaffolding up everything, and then you can kind of make it better later over time if you want to, and you can change it all. But yeah, I think it's really cool. It's a nice addition to the bot framework composer. All these little things being added to the bot framework composer are all they're all kind of slowly making the process of building a bot faster and faster and faster, and easier and more accessible to more people, and I think that's huge. Yeah, so go check out what form dialogues are for the bot framework composer. I think they're kind of cool. I'm going to try and use them on the next video I do, or demo or do, or something like that, where I need to go and get loads of data, or even just some data, because it's a nice process to do. All right, cool. I think that's everything I want to talk about this week. These couple of weeks before Ignite are always kind of challenging, because the product groups always like to hold back like announcements and do the announcements on things like Ignite and Build. So it's definitely been a slow week, but I'm excited for what happens next week. And I've got some stuff lined up, some blog posts I'm frantically trying to get done before next week, so that they're ready to go. So look out for those next week. There'll be a flurry of blog posts next week, hopefully, if I manage to kind of get enough done this weekend. So it should be interesting. Anyway, sun is shining here, which is great. Makes everything feel better. Although actually right now what it's showing me is that I need to go and wash some windows, because it's that like winter sun. It hits the angle of the windows, right, and it just shows up all of how disgusting the windows are over winter. But so I need to get out with the ladder and wash some windows over the weekend as well, and wash the car, as well as writing all the blog posts. So it should be a fun weekend. All right. Anyway, that's enough wittering from me. I shall let you go and enjoy the rest of your weekend, whatever that looks like. Have a great one, and I will see you again post Microsoft Ignite for the next weekly update.